Donald Trump, well, he is expected to make his very first remarks today in Virginia since scoring his third straight victory last night in Nevada. His nearly 20-point win giving the Republican frontrunner significant momentum going into Super Tuesday on March 1st, when nearly 600 delegates will be awarded. Now, Trump channeling the roiling anger of Republican primary voters, frustrated with the status quo, sweeping virtually every category of the GOP electorate. Get this, Hispanics included. Let's listen to the Donald basking in his victory glow.
We love Nevada. We love Nevada. Thank you. Thank you. We weren't expected to win too much, and now we're winning the country. We won the evangelicals. We won with young. We won with old. We won with highly educated. We won with poorly educated. I love the poorly educated. You know what I really am happy about? Because I've been saying it for a long time. 46% with the Hispanics. 46%. Number one with Hispanics.
All right, so you heard the man, Pete Hegseth. 46% of Hispanics, evangelicals. Also, a point about Hispanics, they tend to skew Catholic. Seemingly that back and forth with the Pope did not hurt Donald Trump. These numbers of the exit polls are just astounding. He seems to be unstoppable. What say you?
It's a huge number. I mean, 46% approaching the 50%. A lot of folks have been assuming a 35, maybe 40% ceiling for him. There still seems to be that nationally in some sense, but that number's big. And that Hispanic number's got a lot of people saying, hey, he said he was going to do it, then he did do it. I don't think he's unstoppable. I think the path is a lot more narrow. I think there's probably only one candidate that can do it, and it needs to happen quickly. There's a path through Super Tuesday and March 15th when they become winner take all elections on March 15th, where if it really consolidated quickly and powerfully and passionately, it could be possible. But again, it's getting more and more narrow.
But the two men that threaten him the most, Marco Rubio and Ted Cruz, are Hispanics. And they're saying, ay Dios mío, looking at those numbers today, what about the spin coming out of the Rubio camp and some of these establishment Republicans that are, what are they doing, the math to make themselves feel better we saw in 2012? I mean, when you think about it, Pete, when you add up Ted Cruz and Marco Rubio's number, they still don't beat the number that Donald Trump had.
Oh, it's tough. There's no doubt. I mean, Kasich, for the sake of the country and the sake of conservatism, set aside establishment in that title, because I don't think that applies properly to Marco Rubio. Kasich would have to get out, who's running a VP vanity campaign. Carson needs to get out. And Cruz, I love Ted Cruz. I think he's fantastic, a great, passionate conservative. He's got a bit more of a ceiling than Rubio. Rubio would have to consolidate that support right now, stay a strong second on Super Tuesday, then win on March 15th, some of those big states, including Florida, that are winner-take-all. And you could start to see a long contest. There's 19 states after March 15th with a ton of electoral votes, where if it became a Marco Rubio, Donald Trump battle, that's a 50-50 race.
You know what's interesting about what you say, that was John Kasich's plan. To get to the winner-take-all and to get to his own state, Ohio. Real quickly, so breaking this morning is the fact that a mainstream sitting member of Congress now has just endorsed Donald Trump. Chris Collins of New York, Clarence, New York. Representative Collins had, if you remember, backed Jeb Bush. Now, we haven't talked a lot about endorsements, but what's interesting is Ted Cruz probably will never be able to say that he has a sitting member of Congress who would ever back him. That would be the difference. Who it is, probably not so much. The timing of it, though, really interesting, because could you start to see certain members of the so-called establishment or mainstream, or whatever you want to call them, looking at Trump and saying, boy, it's probably a better idea to be on the side of the winner than not. And then what do? Then you have a different type of divide within the party, potentially.
Sandra, looking at the exit polls as well, what surprised me the most is of the conservative and moderate voters that would have voted for Jeb Bush, Donald Trump won those too. Yes. I mean, my jaw is on the floor.
So it goes back to the question, is he unstoppable at this point? Can he be denied? I'm going to defer to Chris Stirewalt, Fox News digital politics editor, has a piece on foxnews.com right now, and he basically spells it out and makes it very simple. In order for Donald Trump to see any loss of momentum, here's that before Super Tuesday, we're going to have to see focused attacks on Donald Trump, not just from the candidates, but from outside groups as well.
That may not even work.
And we're going to have to see the big C word, the consolidation of the other candidates that you keep talking about, Pete. But he says we don't have to accomplish all of these things before next Tuesday. The party just has to show that there is movement in that direction.
But is there enough time? I mean, these outside groups have spent over $100 million targeting Donald Trump. They only have a couple days to do it. I just don't agree with that premise.
And there's so much more.
Oh, hold on one sec, Megan. I'll get to you right after this. It was a tough fight for second place in Nevada. Florida Senator Marco Rubio, well, finally edging out Texas Senator Ted Cruz by fewer than 2,000 votes. But some analysts say that it was a disappointing finish for Rubio, who lived in Las Vegas as a child and hoped to capitalize on the state's Hispanic and Mormon populations, though he insisted that he's still the only one who can beat Trump.
The Nevada caucuses, by the way, are atypical. I respect Nevada very much, but last night that process was just different than the rest of the country. The vast and overwhelming majority of Republicans do not want Donald Trump to be our nominee. And that's evidenced by the fact that your own poll last week showed that if it came down to me and Donald Trump, I beat him by almost 16 points.
In the meantime, Cruz's third-place finish is his latest setback after his surprise victory in Iowa, as aides reportedly now acknowledge that allegations of dirty tricks and questionable campaign tactics are taking a toll. It appears that they are, Meghan McCain. And I want to go to some of the things Rubio is saying today. Of course, second place victory. He's spiking the football. But he's saying that Donald Trump underperformed in those polls. Now, before Nevada, we heard polls are unreliable, caucus states it's hard to poll, and now we're saying that Trump underperformed. Is that a fair argument by Rubio?
I think he has to spin it any way he can right now. The one thing I'm going to say is those caucus goers, only 8% of the caucus goers were Hispanic. Ever since George W. Bush ran, Republicans have been losing the Hispanic vote by larger and larger margins every single election. So we will see if Donald Trump really can make up the Hispanic vote after saying all the things he has said about deportation, et cetera, et cetera. Marco Rubio right now, it is game time. Take Ted Cruz out and do it right now. And if you can't, part of the problem, I think, the hesitation why voters are going to Trump is because if these guys can't take each other out, you can't take out Hillary. So right now, I don't know what you're doing. I don't know why you're hesitating. Go to the mattresses. You got to get really gangster right now. And if you're not going to do it, people want a winner. And I'm frustrated because, like Pete, I'm a fan of Marco Rubio, but if you're not going to be able to do this and take him out, then you don't deserve to win.
So, Pete, look at these other candidates. There's no indication that a Ted Cruz or a Rubio, or it seems a Kasich is getting out of this race. Ben Carson doesn't appear to be getting out. Maybe he will. But if they don't get out, are we going to just see this winning that Donald Trump? And do people really want to be part of a winning campaign? I think they do.
Then he truly is unstoppable. If this field doesn't do what Jeb Bush honorably did and step out and clear it for someone to challenge him, it won't change. What Rubio's point was about underperforming was Mitt Romney won that state twice with over 55%. So previous winners of Nevada have had a majority. Trump did not. Still an impressive showing by Trump. But what he's saying is it's not over. Yes, he may have won 3 in a row, but this is a year like no other. You know, Rubio rebounded after a stumble in New Hampshire. What he needs to do is make sure, as he gets this establishment support, Rubio, that he reminds people he's a conservative, that his heritage score is very high, that he's been a conservative, he's not an established guy. He ran against the establishment to win his seat in Florida. So as he battles it out with Cruz, I think it's 2 principled conservatives battling it out. Rubio's argument has to be, I'm both a conservative and I can beat Trump.
I think a bigger argument has to be, I'm a winner.
Well, sure.
Right? Because people, they're looking at Donald Trump. They know he's not necessarily yoked to tight conservative values. And they don't seem to care. They want a healthier economy. They want a whole lot of other issues. They're not single issue like that. So he ought to be touting, I'm a winner, if he can do that. A couple things come to mind. One, you know, this is like when my youngest girlfriend a few years ago got Botox. She came to lunch. Nobody recognized her. I wonder if the Republicans can recognize the people. I'm getting there. If they can recognize the people who went to the polls last night. Look at how many people were either first-time voters or first-time voters in a caucus.
Or Democrats, because it was an open process, and a lot of these are open primaries.
Too. Whatever it is, the voter intensity was huge. It's called an unknown. It's like when she showed up, and I won't call her by name, we all went, who is this woman? I would imagine the Republicans are probably looking and saying, who are these people
so
who are voting?
To leave this off, Andrea, Cruz last night turned his focus to going home to Texas. Okay, he stumbled in Nevada. He goes home to Texas. He faces potential defeat in his home state. How big is that for him?
I don't see Cruz advancing to the nomination, but he should do well in Texas. If he doesn't do well in his home state of Texas, he's going to be lambasted like Al Gore was in Tennessee. That is his firewall.
And you know they're only 5 points apart in Texas.
But Sandra, you said that you made a great point earlier in the week, and I want to highlight it. I think that argument of conservatism, Trump's not a conservative, it's already baked into the numbers. People know it. You said they just want someone who doesn't hate him, who isn't beholden to special interests, who's a fighter, who can win and represent.
And by the way, that was quoting an evangelical
while
leader.
you're talking about with Ted Cruz, John Kasich, if he loses in Ohio, and as you're saying, I completely agree with you, he's running this vanity vice presidential campaign.
It's his
firewall. Honorably get out right now, it will have a lasting legacy for him in Ohio if he loses his home state.
You know, you can sum up Trump. Americans have had 7 years of mom jeans.
Yes.
And they want strength. And so Rubio would have to show that he can win.
But they don't want skinny jeans. They don't want beta male, peg leg skinny jeans. They want some sort of normal, maybe dark wash.
Jeans.
Back to the Levi's. I don't know.